Hey guys, welcome to the shop. This week we're going to get started on doing some repairs on my son's dirt bike that we just bought him. We got to replace the clutch, along with many other things, but we're going to get some broken bolts out of it this week. We're going to replace the clutch. We're going to do a little bit of machine work. I've got some viewer mail and of course some other stuff. So let's get started. Alright, so I'm putting a new clutch in my son's dirt bike. These are the friction discs, and we have the steel discs here. And before I put a clutch, in, I like to soak the discs. That way, you're not putting them in dry. Just a little oil, put them in one at a time, that way they're good and covered. Let them soak, and that way when I'm ready to put the bike together, these will be ready. I have to wait on them. Alright, so this is the front wheel off of his bike, and it's got a broken off bolt that holds on the brake rotor, and these are kind of a pain. I always hate the steel bolt broke off in aluminum that's rusted and been oxidized, and it's probably Loctited on top of that, so it may be a little tough to get out, and we got to find a way to hold this, but I think I've got a way that'll work. So let me get set up. I'll show you a little better look at this and the setup. Alright, so this thing is crazy and going to be tough to hold, but I think that if I put a stud through here, got everything I think I'll need. Can you hold that please? Got some hold down hardware. I'm just going to clamp that in the vise. Try to get it flat in there. Got a stud that'll reach all the way through the wheel, and a nut. I'm going to slide the wheel over that. I think this will work. Yeah. And another hold down. Tighten all this up. Should be adequate to get to this broken bolt, I would think. Yeah, this should work. Alright, so there's our broken bolt. You can see it's pretty rusty. I'm just gonna see if I can't get flat on it. It's been twisted off. And I'm going to heat this a few times and then let it cool, and I'm going to put some Croil on it to let it soak in. That's just a penetrating oil. I need every advantage I can get with this. I don't want to mess this up. The good thing about this bolt hole is that it's all the way through, so I can use a standard drill bit. Hopefully it'll grab and push it all the way through. So I just lined everything up by eye. Just used a sharp point down into my center punch mark, and I'm going to center drill this and then drill it. Hopefully it'll come out. Awesome. So now we need to run a tap through it. My son was a little worried, and so was I, that we would have to either oversize the hole or put a thread insert in it. And I really didn't want to do either one of those with a brake component. But I'm just going to run a tap through all these. This is what I think it's a 6x1. Yeah, 6x1 millimeter. Just run a tap through it. Let me run that table out, please. Clean up these threads. That spun right out. I was concerned myself a little.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's good. Clean all that old thread locker out of there. Any bit of damage that was done to the threads. So that's it. So we feed the birds year-round at the house, and we try not to feed the raccoons. They try to climb this bird feeder. Well, they don't try to climb it; that they actually do, and it helps to put a little grease on here, and keeps them from getting up it so easy. But they're pretty persistent. They wear it off in about a week, and I have to redo it. So the 2 rubber sealed bearings out of the brake lever off that little motorcycle, little dirt bike. And I'm trying to clean them up. They're a little crunchy. If they don't clean up, we'll just replace them. Bearings are pretty cheap, but I'm going to give it a shot, see if they'll smooth out, and I'll show you how I clean these little guys. Okay, so I was just using some diesel fuel to clean them off, but I like to use a razor blade and come in on the outside here. Try not to damage the seal, and you can just pop them right out and do both sides. So that's pretty nasty looking. And then here's a front wheel bearing. Already done one. Just going over everything on this bike. Alright, so our small brake lever bearings are no good. Cleaned all the grease and goo out of them, and they've got some corrosion and stuff in them. I mean, you hear that. So those are non-repairable, so I'm not even going to mess with those anymore. I did order some new SKFs. It's like $5 for 2 shipped. These are standard skate bearings, I believe. 26 millimeter, about 10. About 8, so they're basic and cheap, so we're just going to replace those. But the wheel bearing, this is one of the front wheel bearings, already done the other, still in really good condition, no noise. So repack it. It's just some high temperature wheel bearing grease. Doesn't take a whole lot, and we'll just snap the seals right back in them. There we go, cleaned and packed wheel bearing, ready to be reinstalled. Okay, so I need to make a quick bearing driver. For the bearing install on the front wheels. These are 35 millimeter OD, so I need to turn this down, hollow it out in the center to slightly smaller than 35. That way I can drive these bearings in the front wheel without damaging them. Alright, so that's just a quick bearing driver. That way I don't mess these front wheel bearings up when I reinstall them.
I thought you had to cut the hole longer.
Nope, just a small recess. So grab a wheel seal. So now we need the spacer. There we go. Put a little grease on these.
Is it good to make that sound?
Yep, that's good. And we'll do Loctite this and tighten down those bolts. Okay, so when me and my son went and looked at the bike that we're working on for him, I noticed that the clutch was grabby. We drove it around and stuff to make sure that it ran good and all that. But I did notice that the clutch didn't feel good. It was grabby. It drug a little even when you completely squeezed the clutch handle, and so I knew it had clutch issues that we were going to have to address. This is the original clutch basket, what come out of the engine, and it has some wear in it. Now I could see this through the oil hole, the oil fill hole in the crankcase, so I knew that I was going to have to either service this, or replace it, machine it, or something. Now what I chose to do, instead of machining this, simply because this is a soft cast piece, they're known for giving issue, I went with an upgraded, this is a Wiseco forged clutch basket. So let me bring it down here, let me show you the obvious issues with this clutch basket, and then I'm going to assemble this together and install it on the bike. Alright, so hopefully you can see those ridges there. This is just one of many friction discs, and they go in here. And this clutch basket drives these discs. And they put quite a bit of force on that lip, and then over time they wear grooves and they can't open and close properly. Basically they can't release. They want to be in their driven position, which makes the clutch drag. At least that's the best understanding that I have of it. Here is the upgraded version, which is hard anodized and not grooved and should last quite a bit longer than the original. So that's what we're going to be installing in this machine. Alright, so I'm just peening over the ends of the bolts where they stick through the end of this basket, the ones that that we put in. You know, they got factory Loctite installed. You torque them and peen them. And now I don't think people would just peen them on their own, so of course it's best to read the manual because that's what they suggest. Now the original basket, the one that this gear came off of, it was held on with rivets. So you know, you definitely don't want these bolts coming loose, bouncing around in your engine. So peening them over also, just using a automatic center punch. It's working pretty well.
Why can't you just slip them all in there?
Because they have keyed and then never get them lined up all.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter which ones, like the steel's on top of the.
It's every other disc, every other one steel, one friction, one steel,
Does
one
the
friction.
steel have to be first on the bottom?
Nope, you have frictions out on both sides. So friction is the order does matter, yes, but according to the manual, that's the way it works. That's it. It's done.
I'm just gonna brush it sideways. What?
Nothing. Alright, so to put that clutch in, I had to make a couple custom tools, just thrown together really. I had to make a clutch tool to hold, here is an old assembly, to hold the inner hub. I'll get you a little better look at all these components. Just a second. There we have our disc stack up, what I just put in that bike. This is an old inner hub, and this is an inner hub holder that I made so I can get, there's a nut that holds that on. I just took a couple of the old changing clutch components anyway, so I took some of the old steel friction or discs and welded them together, welded a handle on them, and now the holder. And then to remove this inner hub, I had a quick 1/4-inch plate to make a puller. This is pressed on that shaft pretty good, and to pull that inner hub off. So yeah, I think anybody could do a clutch job on a bike if they were careful and watch what they do or watch what they did. Now I did have to replace a couple extra components on this that were not just as simple as a clutch change. I had to replace, this is the drive gear, your Kickstarter gear, and I guess your main, one or the other. Anyway, this gear transfers power from the clutch to the actual transmission. I had to change this bushing here, and there's a bronze bushing in this, and had to change the collar that this rides on. So a few little things, that I looked in the manual, got all the measurements, just mostly fit and feel. It felt a little loose, the whole clutch assembly on the primary shaft that comes out, so I had to address that also. Not that big a deal, those parts are pretty cheap, but when you get into something like a used 2-cycle, you just never know what you're going to get, especially a race type bike. Alright, so I've got some viewer mail that I want to share with you, some really neat stuff. These items were all sent in by the same gentleman, Harold, and I really appreciate it. He sent me it's Kindex tooling, it's just a Kennametal tool holder, carbide insert holder. That big piece of Momax 1-inch, so I didn't have any 1-inch, so I'm going to actually sharpen that up and use that here in a minute on a little project. But the most interesting thing that he sent was this box and its contents. Now you can tell this is definitely an old box with the metal corners. It's seen better days, but it's definitely got the look. I'm gonna end up putting this in my display cabinet that I got in the house, my machinist box. And inside this box is the actual, what I believe is the actual contents that were sold in it. It's a Vascular Met, Waukegan, Illinois carbide insert holder, along with 2 packages that contained carbide inserts, and here's the inserts. Now all this is pretty rough, but given the age of these boxes, I'm surprised they exist at all, you know, in any condition. So I'm really happy to have them, and I think that's definitely neat. I mean, how often do you find the box, the contents of the box originally, and the inserts for the holder with their packages? So really neat. So that's definitely a keeper in my opinion. And he also wrote me a really nice letter. It says, "Hey Steve, here's the 1-inch tool bit that I wrote you about. I also found these tool holders and inserts in the box that I thought you may be able to do something with them. If nothing else, maybe you can use the carbide for making custom tools. I really appreciate the work that you put into your videos to share with the community. It's people like you, Adam Booth, Tom Lipton, Joe Pazinski, that got me motivated to go to school to make machining my profession. I'll be out of school this time next year. I figure I'll start out as a button pusher, but I hope to end up in R&D or prototyping somewhere down the line. I've got tons to learn, but the videos from seasoned professionals like you have already given me a leg up. Thanks again, Harold." I don't know if I would consider myself a seasoned professional, but the guys that you mentioned before, in my mind, are. And you know, we all share and learn from each other. I've learned a lot from those guys. Others have learned from me, and you know, that's just the way it works. I really think that the R&D and the prototyping, at least as far as I'm concerned, is the way to go, especially for somebody with my mindset. I always like the challenging, you know, the challenges of making, you know, custom things. I like the one-off, every day is different type of work. So, you know, good luck with your schooling, and you know, I wish you the best. And thanks for the gifts. I really appreciate it. So this tool has already been ground on, and I want to change a couple things about it. I want to change the nose radius, I want to change the back rake, and I want to change the front rake angle. So I'm going to be doing the nose radius by hand. I'm going to do the top and the side rake with this setup here. So I'm going to get this adjusted in, and I'll bring it back. We'll grind this real quick. We'll do the nose radius on our bench grinder, and then we'll stick it in the shaper, and I'll be able to use it. All right, so this tool is set up to cut from left to right, and I'm going to do 5 on the back rake and 5 on the side rake. At least that's what I think I'm going to go with. We'll see what it looks like when I'm done, but that should be adequate for what I'm doing. Get our fixture set up here. Let's see. We'll go 5. And then we want 5. And that should give us both those angles. So there's the 2 angles we just ground. Got 5 and 5. I don't like the way that this tip here has got a large radius on it. It's going to make the end pretty weak. So for what I'm going to do with this tool, it's not going to matter. But in the future, I'll probably change that way it's not weak. And definitely raining outside. So try this tool out. I've got a piece of hot rolled 3/8 of an inch thick piece of steel here. I'm making some parts for a hay rake for a neighbor of mine, and I need to thin this down. I need to take about 50 thousandths off of it, and then I got to bend it into some hay rake hook brackets. That's what they want. So that's what I got to make. That's about 9 inches. Just my stroke. So just turn this handle. So my piece is 9 inches long, so I'm going to go a little over 10 inches. That way I can travel past the end and back past the beginning. Alright, so now we need to set up stroke position. Cleanup pass after that. good enough for what I need. Alright guys, I think that's about it this week. I sure have a lot more to do, but that's all I can jam into this video. So, got a couple pieces of tragic news that I want to share with you guys before we part. One is that my wife's uncle, Gary Gibson, he was in his mid-60s, just passed away of stage 4 cancer. We just got the news of that, so we're dealing with that around here. And they gave him 3 months to live. He just found out, several weeks ago. They gave him 3 months to live, and he definitely did not make it. And it took him quick. So, rest in peace, Gary. You'll be missed. Another piece of bad news is that YouTube creator, machinist, repair guy, Aussie 50 just took his own life here recently. And anytime, I just found this news out from Big Clive, another channel that I watch. Go check him out if you want the full rundown. He said it beautifully. But anytime someone with the exact same interest as you, usually, in the same lifestyle, ends up taking their own life, it touches everybody. Or just the loss of a life in general. It doesn't have to be suicide. Because you share similar interests with those people, you probably have a similar lifestyle, and it just touches close to home. So I'd like to say rest in peace, Aussie 50. I did not know of Aussie 50, but like I said, anytime you lose someone that is similar to you, even a little younger than me, so there's a misconception out there that these guys don't struggle. The people that have these channels, YouTube channels, they're on top of the world, according to some comments, or making tons of money, and that they don't struggle, their lives must be perfect. Well, that's not always the case, given, Aussie as an example. Of course, he must have had some demons that was following him. And I know that I've struggled in the past, but if I could give anybody any advice, it would be hang in there. Those dark times pass and usually lead to lighter days. My issues usually stem from bad young man decisions that still sometimes haunt me. And we can all probably relate, or at least a lot of us. So that's it. Rest in peace, guys. Just want to say thanks for watching to all my viewers. Big thanks to my patrons for helping support the channel around here. And the guys who made donation to my PayPal. I really appreciate it. I couldn't do it without you guys. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you need anything, contact me through my email. Click on my little guy to subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you next time.